Throughout human history, we have had an irresistible curiosity with the paranormal, the supernatural, and death. Religion, superstition, and folklore have all attempted to offer explanations for the strange happenings that, even in this modern age of logic, reason, and science, we still struggle to make sense of. These stories have now filtered into popular culture, creating unease, anxiety, and fear around certain locations, objects, and historical figures. This fascination has led to the rise in the industry of dark tourism, where people will actively seek out places of tragedy and horror for their own interest and pleasure, embracing this desire to be scared and connecting with mysteries that seem unsolvable. This film will attempt to explain both the appeal of dark tourism and the fascination with the paranormal, trying to figure out just why we care so much about things we may never know.
Before we put it in the glass tank, which has been there for the last 30 odd years, you wrote a bit of the gentry or something.
The Nottingham Ghost Walk takes place every week, beginning in the Old Trip to Jerusalem and ending in the caves of the Old Salutation Inn, two of the UK's most haunted and oldest pubs. It was in these locations that I spoke to Simon and Brian, the leaders of the Ghost Walk for nearly 30 years, and new walkers Jess and Lauren, who have recently joined, to find out what drew them to the dark tourism industry, the importance of folklore, and why we are all so fascinated by it.
I think ghost walks are a kind of an unexpected institution in the UK now. You know, they are so common, for want of a better word.
I've always enjoyed tales of, I suppose, like a slightly spooky nature, and those that are to do with like local history. So when I saw the advert, I just thought, very much a gut feeling. I was like, oh, I really want to have a go at doing that. I think I could do it.
The interest in it, and particularly this whole phenomenon that we might call dark tourism, has, you know, really taken off. When we first started, we were one of only a handful of ghost walks in the UK. Now, I think at last count, I'd probably put it right about 70 maybe,
well, yeah,
something like that. You know, bigger, more touristy type places like York, for example, can have anything up to 6 ghost walks.
Edinburgh is another one that's got multiples.
Yeah. Nottingham's a smaller city, so there's just the one currently. I'm going to go quite deep now, really, in that I do think humanity has always been obsessed with death. It is the last great mystery of life. So every religion is built ultimately on death and what's going to happen after it. And if you twin that with the fact that humans from many cultures love being a little bit scared, we like to be frightened as a way of entertainment.
Yeah. On more than one occasion, like 3 days or whatever. Depending which of these reports you actually sort of read, there's somewhere between sort of 60 and sort of 63-ish separately identifiable hauntings in the cave and the pub above.
Every walk is a performance. Well, I think we like to think of it very much as street theatre.
When I first started to tell the first story, I had quite a bit of surplus energy. I was struggling a little bit to control it, and I think I went straight into the story as I've reflected on that. I think I realised you have to have a bit of chat as well. You've got to chat the audience up. You can't just do story. They need to know you. They need to be able to engage with you. They need to see that you're real.
His face goes red, he's gurgling and choking, and all the blood rushes to Mortimer's mighty men.
We like to show off a little bit as well.
Dress up. I often liken it to stand-up comedy because I quite like to go with the dynamic of the crowd. If I'm getting a feedback, I'll sort of go with that.
I always, on the ghost walks, try and examine each and every one of you. I'll do it very subtly so you don't know I'm doing it. But using my razor-sharp, Darren Brown type perception, I've noticed that each and every one of you here tonight shares the simple fact that you all appear, at least physically, to be over the age of 6.
and I like an audience personally that I can interact with quite closely. If there's people you can work with a lot and are willing to kind of work with you a little bit as well, then that's the ideal thing. But sometimes you'll just get, you know, if you pick the right person as your victim for hanging, drawing and quartering, you know, and you've picked them just right, you can get a really nice sort of dynamic going between you and them. You know, you encourage them to, you know, act as if they're being hung, act as if I'm plunging a knife into their gut and eviscerating them with impunity. You know, it's yeah, it's just if you get the right person, you know.
It is said take anything up to 2 days before he died.
You have to own a story. Good storytelling, you own the story. Just the same as a song. It's exactly the same.
For a few hours. So, finally, after the main entertainment value is done, the executioner would raise his heavy-bladed sword.
I got into the
or
Ghost
axe.
Walk, or rather I was asked originally to perform the Ghost Walk when it first started, because I'm a storyteller. And my passion is storytelling, my passion is entertaining. I'm not here to make people believe in ghosts. I'm here to tell them a good story and some good history and the folklore, a legend of this city, because we in England particularly, less so in say Wales, Scotland and Ireland, if we're talking about the UK and Ireland, England's lost so much. You know, and it is to me really, really vital that you know, these folk tales, legends, whatever you want to call them, are remembered and passed on.
I love history, I love stories. The ghost element was kind of secondary to me. I think it's a very human kind of need to connect with other human experiences, and I actually don't think it matters whether it's meeting new people in a city that are alive, obviously, or kind of almost like connecting with an experience that has passed. I think people come for the walk to kind of connect with the city, and part of that is communing with all the kind of current stuff like the cafes, the restaurants, the theatres, but also all the souls and experiences that have passed through it before all make up the fabric of that city that you're visiting as a tourist.
Another heavily disguised cloaked figure.
One thing, one aspect we're quite into in the Ghost Walk is that the history is not messed about with, because people will go away and they will have taken bits of history from you, so you don't want to be making things like that up.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any gimmicks. So a lot of Ghost Walks have somebody sitting in the dark, so when the group gets there, they'll leap out and sort of make people jump. But we don't have any gimmicks at all like that. We are primarily storytellers. We're not ghost hunters. We don't have Ouija boards or sort of stay around till the early hours of the morning, sort of trying to listen for strange things that might or might not be there. Yeah, we are just solely storytellers.
To continue with his books, there was a bang from above, followed a few seconds later, bang by another one. A few seconds later, bang by another one.
A lot of people do love the historical element, and I think for some people, if you advertise something, and I was talking to some colleagues in the States who we network with, they were doing another tour which was labelled as a history tour, and they're struggling to get anywhere with it, and people, although they love history, if you call a tour history, it sounds very, very dry, you know. So I think people want to access that history as well, because they want to know what is the reason for all this around us. I mean, here in this ancient pub, you've got the Cromwell snug and the King Charles snug. You've got the caves underneath, and people want to know why.
As to a typical customer, no. I mean, Saturday night, Chris turned up. Chris, you can tell because he wears lots of Ghost Walk stickers on his jacket, but he's been coming for so many years, and he just turns up. We don't charge him at all.
Okay, so Chris, how many times have you been on this Ghost Walk?
I've been on quite a few, and I came on the beginning of 2020. But anyway, so I got to go first Derby Ghost Walk. I wasn't the first time I saw the ghost, because I was huge, but the second time I went on the old jail one, that was the first time I saw a ghost. It's like this one, and it's like bit up above, but not the down below, and and she's like going towards this where they used to hang people from, and going towards that, and then she came towards me, so just moved out of the way, so she goes straight past me basically.
So
like,
you see a lot of ghosts then?
not always, just the odd, because the word sometimes gets mentioned about people talking about Rosie.
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen Rosie from this pub? Are you afraid of ghosts, or do you like seeing
But
them?
never had any bad encounters with them.
Never had a bad
What's that
encounter with a
seen?
ghost?
Nope.
So they're normally friendly. What's
It
your...
can be, yeah. But human form just like we are. My film versions are
I mean, personally for me,
different. But,
I wouldn't say
yeah.
I've ever experienced a haunting or a presence, if I'm completely honest. But I'm a huge believer that people have and that it's possible. There's been times where I've seriously considered, well, what would I do if I actually experienced something whilst on the walk? Ghostly presences are, as I said, I feel are some sort of field in some sense that we can't quite record or explain, and that you should meet that sort of that field that comes upon you just with just acceptance and like peace maybe. The only tale I'd heard of this place is the galleon. The tale of the haunted galleon is probably the most well-known tale about the pub, and probably why quite a few people come in to sort of see it.
Well, as I understand, it was brought here by a sailor many, many years ago, because Nottingham was quite a big inland port, and it was cursed, possibly, if I remember correctly, the backstory was that a pirate responded to the singing of a mermaid and tried to steal her and her wealth. So she captured him and his crew inside the ship, and then it's been passed around. Other sailors have found it, I think, and brought it here. I don't know if you've got...
It was a couple hundred years ago that it was brought here by the sailor. Apparently in lieu of his drinking tab, so he would come here often to drink, not have any money on him, and on one occasion bequeathed the landlord with the galleon. And that's where I think from then on strange happenings began around it.
So the story is, if somebody touches it, within a year they will pass away, pass from this world into the next. So, some time ago when they had a refurb, it was placed inside a case, and a clairvoyant came and exorcised the ship. Placed it in a case, and she's the last person to have touched it. And sadly, the story goes that she passed away within a year of actually touching the galleon. So now it's in a glass box and nobody has to touch it.
Do you believe this? Would you touch it? Have you got it?
Would I touch it? No, I wouldn't.
What about
I
you?
definitely wouldn't. No,
No,
I won't directly look at it.
Clued up and rub thighs with a stranger. It's Saturday night in Nottingham. What more?
I have seen generations of people come, because 29 years, that's a generation plus 4 more or less. And, I'll get people who come on and say, oh yeah, came and did it as a kid with my mum and dad, and they might now be in their early 20s or something like that, or people who particularly enjoyed it, they've got some family coming over from wherever, so they'll come back again, so it's that's kind of my favourite customer.
If you enjoyed the ghost walk, go home, tell all your friends about it. If you thought it was a bit crap, keep your mouth shut.
I don't see any reason it would need to ever end, in the fullness of time. As we back out, it will get passed on to somebody else, and it can just keep going.
Evolving.
It's not about one individual, it's just something that's there, and it will live on, like a ghost. Yeah.
Like the happy ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.